old Big 12 rivalry will continue this Saturday as number 15 Kansas State takes on Missouri in Columbia. The Wildcats won last year's meeting 40-12 in Manhattan, but now the question is whether or not the reigning Big 12 champions can do it again, or if Missouri will finally live up to the hype and pull off the upset at home. That is the question we're going to answer today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down everything you need to know for Kansas State, Missouri on Saturday morning. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years. We hit over 80% of our bets last week. We are 5-1 in our best bet section so far this season. You do not want to miss out on it, guys. It's guaranteed winnings, guaranteed profit, the best customer service any handicapper in the country can give you. And we want you to sign up today for that full year-long subscription so you can take advantage of every single one of our picks this season. Check out our mailing address as well for exclusive, or mailing address to send us some gear so we can put it in our background for every single Gridiron Expert video, and our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round. All of that, again, down in the description below. Go check it out. I really like this game, right? This has been a game for me that's been circled on my calendar really since last year, right? You know, Kansas State, Missouri last year, we kind of thought it would be a closer game than it was. It was a blowout. I mean, Kansas State just dominated 40-12, 235 rushing yards on the Tigers last year. And now we're getting this rematch with a Kansas State team that's just as good, if not better, than they were last year, and a Missouri team that is loaded with talent and entered this season with some sky-high expectations. And you take a look at the personnel here. We'll start on offense with Kansas State. This is a team that offensively really hasn't missed a beat, despite a lot of people thinking they would. You know, a lot of people thought with the loss of Deuce Vaughn and the loss of a handful of receivers that this offense would take a bit of a step back. And through 2 games, granted against Southeast Missouri and Troy, not the best measuring stick, same can be said for Missouri, we'll get to them in a second, but through 2 games, Kansas State has looked phenomenal offensively. They've outscored those 2 opponents 87-13, had 588 yards in the season opener, had 397 yards last week against Troy. They're averaging over 492 yards per game, over 300 through the air, over 185 on the ground. Will Howard has been fantastic at quarterback. You know, he kind of took over the reins at quarterback last year, never let up. You know, he kind of came onto the scene early last year and led this team to the Big 12 championship in replacement of Adrian Martinez. It was a phenomenal run for him. He's continuing that success, over 540 passing yards and 5 touchdowns already this year. DJ Giddens is phenomenal at running back, 180 yards already. They also have Trayshawn Ward, who's rushed for over 100 yards this season. So 2 100-yard rushers already on the team. 4 players that already have 100 reception yards this year, led by R.J. Garcia, Phillip Brooks, both them leading the way at the wide receiver position. This Kansas State offense, guys, is really clicking and firing on all cylinders. And to me, they own the significant offensive edge over Missouri. The key for them, for Kansas State, is you've got to play through Will Howard. The game will go for them as Will Howard goes. You play through him. You allow him to go out there and sling it. You don't try to get cute. You don't try to switch anything up. You let him run this game. You're going to be just fine. Play the game through Will Howard and nothing else. I'm not saying don't run the ball. That's not what we're saying. But let him control the game. Missouri, on the other hand, you know, they're averaging over 375 yards per game through 2 games this year, 215 through the air, over 160 on the ground. They've got an experienced quarterback in Brady Cook who's 31 for 40. Only 9 incompletions through 2 games this year, 376 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cody Schrader has been phenomenal at running back. Already has over 200 rushing yards on the year and a touchdown. Luther Burden is one of the more electric players in the SEC, not just as a wide receiver, but as a specialist as well. Already has over 200 reception yards and a touchdown this year. But despite all those players that I just mentioned, despite all the experience that Missouri has on that side of the ball, they lack explosiveness. If you watch Missouri's offense, the play calling is kind of lackluster. The play calling for some is questionable. I know our man Eddie Rose kind of voiced his disdain for the offense, especially last week against Middle Tennessee, where Missouri only won by 4 points against the Blue Raiders. This is an offense that, yes, is under a new offensive coordinator in Kirby Moore. We knew they were going to go through some growing pains, and maybe you're seeing that through 2 games. It's only 2 weeks into the year. You're not going to expect to be electric just like that. But there is an area of concern and a cause of concern for what we have seen from Missouri's relatively lackluster offense. And that was the case for them last year. It has been the case through 2 games this year. That's a problem. It's a concern. Brady Cook, accurate, but wildly inconsistent at times. The run game maybe won't have that much of a success against a stingy Kansas State defense. So what's Missouri going to have to do offensively? What can they do offensively against a defense in Kansas State that's absolutely phenomenal? A Kansas State defense that under Chris Klieman has always been fantastic. They have been one of the best in the Big 12 year in and year out under Klieman. This year, allowing just a little over 250 yards per game and only 38 rushing yards per game. And again, the level of competition for both of these teams hasn't been there. So the numbers are a little bit skewed, and that's understandable. But still, even so, Kansas State traditionally always has a strong defensive line, a strong front seven that's going to shut down the run, which means for Missouri, they're going to have to win the game through Brady Cook. I don't believe that Missouri is going to go out there and rush for over 160 yards a game. I don't believe Schrader is going to go out there and have this massive day against Kansas State's front line. Don't see it happening. Kansas State's not going to allow Missouri to run the ball. Missouri needs that balance. They need to have a running game, and they're not going to. This could be an area where you see Brady Cook maybe utilize his little mobility more than we've seen in these first two games. In a game where Brady Cook's going to have to go out there, he's attempted 40 pass attempts so far this year. He may have to attempt over close to 25 or 30 in this game. Might have to reach his season total in one game just to have a shot at beating Kansas State, because the Wildcats, again, have been phenomenal. They held Troy last week, a Troy team that was on a 12-game winning streak, we should add, to 286 yards on the day, just 70 rushing yards, forced 2 turnovers. They have 8 sacks already on the year. They are extremely strong in all aspects of the defense, all 3 levels. And again, if they stop the run, Missouri could find themselves in a bit of trouble. You want to play devil's advocate, though, the same can be said for Missouri, right? Missouri's defense is phenomenal, and Missouri's defense is the reason this team has been getting so much hype entering the season. We talked all year long about how strong the Tigers' defense will be and how strong they could be. Return so much talent, practically everybody defensively for Missouri. They are only allowing about 240 yards per game this year, only 180 through the air, only 58.5 on the ground. They have 6 sacks on the year, so they're creating pressure, averaging 3 sacks a game so far. But an area of concern for me is in 2 games against South Dakota and Middle Tennessee State, they have not forced a turnover. And that's not the end of the world, but they're really not creating too much pressure. 6 sacks isn't bad. Handful of tackles for a loss, not bad. But they're not forcing these inferior opponents into mistakes. And now you're about to face a veteran quarterback and a strong offense that, yes, is coming on the road, but is not as likely to make stupid mistakes as maybe South Dakota or Middle Tennessee were. Kansas State, on the other hand, also, we should add, offensive line, always strong under Chris Klieman, always very strong up front, has allowed just 1 sack this year. So the question is, can Missouri's front seven, which is a very big strength of the team, maybe the biggest strength of the team, can they generate pressure on Will Howard? Can they generate pressure on Kansas State's passing game? I don't expect Kansas State to go out and run for over 230 yards like they did last year. I don't expect either team to have massive days on the ground, right? I really don't. I think they both could maybe hit the 100-yard mark. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams do that. But to expect one team to just burst onto the scene against 2 great defenses, I just don't see it happening. So for Missouri, though, if they're going to shut down the run, which is something they have to do, can they then stop Will Howard, who, again, has been phenomenal through 2 games this year? Can they find a way to do that? Can they find a way to force him into mistakes? Can they find a way to force any mistakes, something they were unable to do against 2 inferior opponents, one of which they nearly lost to last week against Middle Tennessee? The Blue Raiders, again, having a shot, 4th and 8 from the Missouri 42 with under 4 minutes left. They convert that, they very well have a chance to go on and score a touchdown and win the game. Bit of a scare, bit of a concern, but granted, a lot of people look bad in week 2. So what's going to happen, guys? What's going to happen in Columbia? This is a very underrated game, right? Week 3 doesn't have a whole lot of marquee matchups. This has an opportunity to be one of them. This is a very, very sneaky good game, an old rivalry game, 2 teams that hate each other, a lot of bad blood here, and 2 teams that, to me, are relatively even. Both of them match up style-wise very similar to each other. This is why I think this game is going to be a lot closer than the 28-point beating that Kansas State put on Missouri last year. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than that. And I tell you, back in the preseason, I picked Missouri to win this game. We went through and did our game-by-game predictions for everybody, and I said, I'm picking Missouri. I'm buying into the hype. They're at home. They're going to be significantly better defensively. The offense should take that step forward. Give me the Tigers to pull off the upset. And I'm sad to say that I'm changing my pick. I am no longer picking Missouri to win this game, and maybe it comes back to bite me here. But I look at this right. I've been more impressed with Kansas State through 2 weeks than I have been with Missouri. I believe Kansas State owns the quarterback edge in Will Howard. I believe overall Kansas State owns the offensive edge. And if you look at the 2 teams defensively, you can make the argument that Missouri is better defensively, but Kansas State is right behind them. There is not a significant gap defensively between the Wildcats and the Tigers. So a better offense, a defense that is just as good or just slightly behind a Missouri defense. The only thing that Kansas Kansas State is lacking in is home field advantage, because they definitely, to me, own the coaching advantage as well with Chris Klieman over Eli Drinkwitz. So I believe the Wildcats can overcome Columbia. I believe they can overcome Missouri's home field advantage. And I believe in a very close game, a game that I would not be surprised to see be decided by one possession. 10 points at the max, leaning towards one possession here. Give me the Wildcats to improve to 3-0, make a statement victory on the road, and hand the Tigers their first loss. And a lot of people may be starting to lose a little bit of faith in the Tigers. A disappointing start to them. Many thought they could maybe start 5-0, somewhere around there. They take an early season loss at home, albeit to a very, very good Kansas State team who very well could make a return trip to the Big 12 championship in what is looking to be a wide open conference. So there you have it, guys. We're picking Kansas State to take down Missouri, our final game of the week heading into week 3. Let us know your thoughts. Leave them down in the comments below. And as always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. You do not want to miss out on those picks, guys. Guaranteed winnings. Our college football picks and NFL picks for this week already posted to the website. Go sign up for those today. Check out our Patreon account, our mailing address to send us some of your team's gear. No Kansas State or Missouri gear. Would love to get some up here. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.